Well, Brad Birnie joining us today at Moonlight Golf and Country Club. Place obviously very special to you, Brad. That's why we're here today. In 2021, Golf Saskatchewan Hall of Fame inductee. We're going to get to that. Obviously, that's less than a month away. That big night coming up. Golf for you again. You know, how does it start? As obviously as a youngster, it must go back a little bit.
Yeah, I grew up in sports. So many different sports as a kid. Baseball and hockey, especially. Golf and football, basketball, squash, bowling, just all kinds of sports all the time. And eventually I caddied for my dad out at Holiday Park Golf Course. I might have been 10 or 11 and pushed his cart or pulled his cart at that time and started to enjoy it, started to appreciate it. He had me hit a couple of shots at certain times during the round out of sight of everybody else, and I loved it. I loved being outside. I loved the challenge. It didn't seem like a very easy game or sport, and eventually got more and more interested. Tried to combine baseball and golf in summertime. Got a little more difficult as you went along, and I always like to say that golf chose me. It became more appealing than the other sports in time, and I eventually started to be obsessed with it in a good way. And started playing at Wildwood, and then Holiday Park, and then eventually at the Saskatoon Golf and Country Club, and went on from there. It was a real interesting early days because there were quite a few juniors that were much better than I was. Gerard Waslin, Randy Folk, Mike Angelstad, Kent Adams, Fergus Iwanchina, and I was one of the other competitors behind those guys, and I thought that was really challenging as well. And the decision was to maybe just practice more and maybe smarter than they did, and that eventually led to being competitive. And I didn't know it at the time, but it was eventually starting to lead me towards coaching as well, which really started to take hold once I started not being as competitive as at one time.
Yeah, when you grow up, some guys, you know, they lean towards being more competitive. Some work to change others' lives. When did you realize, at what age? Because I think there was some college golf for you, but growing up in your juniors, when did you realize that, you know, this is probably going to turn into something?
That was a little later than I think people realize. I graduated from the University of Saskatchewan in psychology. I kind of did it backwards, and then I went with the encouragement of my buddy Randy Folk, to college in Texas, and we and Vern Rabinovich and Mike Angelstad and the four of us Saskatchewanians made up a golf team, 4 of the 5 people of a golf team in Jacksonville, Texas. And it was playing all winter in Jacksonville that really springboarded my game into being more competitive. I did that for several years, another year in Broward Community College in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. But those winters accelerated my improvement to the point where I became a pretty good golfer in Saskatchewan men's amateur golf after those winters. And it started to dawn on me, well, I can make a career of that. But that was at 21 and 22, 23 years old. That really was the decision point where a few other avenues I could have made a career out of were starting to dry up a bit or not be as appealing. And that started to become a possibility.
Yeah, that's got to be a rarity. I don't know if you'll ever see that again, going to Canadian college and down there. Must be some sort of NCAA rules now. But
it was, and yeah, I'm so grateful for Randy, not only being my best golfing buddy over a lot of years, but also to encourage me to join him down there for 1 year, and it opened up a lot of, well, my career basically.
Yeah,
it wasn't a career consideration prior to that. It was that exposure to top level golf all year long.
Need to mention the amateur success, back-to-back wins in '85 and '86, really kick-starting what you were about to, you know, do for a long time, hey?
Yeah, it was the start of playing all year long, and that's where, if you're a competitive golfer, you've got a huge advantage over other people. So we came back from Texas winters and competed in the lob sticks and the ends amateurs and the tournaments in Saskatchewan, and found we had a leg up on everybody, which then started to say, okay, what do we do next if I start winning here? Then Canadian Tour, at that time, the modern Canadian Tour, if you want to call it that, started becoming more prominent, and I made the decision after the third strong amateur showing, men's amateur showing, to turn professional and made it to the Canadian Tour qualifying school at Glen Meadows in Sydney, British Columbia, and qualified. And got to play a couple of rounds with Brent Franklin from British Columbia, who at that time was a Canadian men's amateur champion and turning professional, and I could compete with him. Not always off the tee or distance-wise, but certainly inside 150 yards, and certainly I thought at the time inside your head. I thought I could compete with those guys. And having a background in psychology from University of Saskatchewan and the University of Oklahoma, it became one of the strengths of my game, which again contributed to my coaching later on as well. So those winters of playing and competing just started to snowball into how far can I go with this, and I don't think there was any limit at the time. I really thought I could compete with the best in Canada, certainly, and the United States, and eventually the world was my ambition at the time.
Amazing stuff. I could ask you all about all these different tournaments, just going through your bio, and we're going to hear more in 3 weeks' time. But when you look back, what are some of the highlights, and where do the AMs rank?
Well, the amateurs rank very highly. The lobstick titles and Saskatchewan men's amateurs are the highlights of my earlier playing career, and later on, some of the highlights are the New York State Open. I played 4 years of New York State Open, and the one high finish this is at Bethpage State Park Black Course, which has hosted U.S. Opens, and a phenomenal course. It's one of the highlights of my career is playing these courses, spending 14 years in New York, just incredible. And I went into the last round of one of the New York State Opens, I can't remember which year, in the second or third last group, and was 3 under after the first 6 holes and was tied for the lead. And it blows me away to think of somebody from Saskatoon being able to do that on Bethpage State Park. And I eventually tied for 5th in the New York State Open. That was one of my most proud accomplishments. Unfortunately, it was away from Saskatchewan at the time, and people here didn't know about it, but that's fine. That's the choice I made. I also played in a club professional national championship in Palm Springs, representing the metropolitan New York section of New York, and played at Mission Hills, an LPGA Tour championship course. I played in some great tournaments in Florida in winters, just Canadian PGA Championship when I was on the Canadian Tour. A lot of highlights. Not any of them stand out, but just so many of them. Unbelievable career. Eventually, I think it was around 2003, is according to the people that nominated you, and I'll ask you about them as well. But 2003, when you kind of turned to coaching full time and wanted to, I guess, give back to the game almost that had given you so much. It's true. I had spent 14 years in New York and become an American citizen and a Canadian citizen, dual citizen, and had a decision whether to continue pursuing a career as a club professional in New York and a coach. After many years, I decided to move back to Saskatoon, my hometown, and have been here ever since. I had a wonderful relationship start with my partner Sharon Scott, and decided to coach more than be a club professional, and that's when I started a range on Boychuk Drive, 2 years of that, as well as after that starting to come out here and coach out here, and started a practice team of juniors that who were elite athletes at the time, and from there we had Jesse Gibson and Troy Bulmer and the Tanner and Taylor Afsess and McGregors and Jerry Christensen, Anna Young, Thea Hedeman. These are just elite athletes at the time and juniors, and they came together and started to compete with each other and practice with each other, and that's really my idea of trying to make a team of elite juniors. And from there, the coaching over the last 18 years has been fantastic, and being here at Moon Lake, one of the top tier practice facilities in Western Canada, I think has been a fantastic matchup of what I wanted to do as a coach, as well as what the facility wants to do as one of the best courses in Saskatchewan. It was a good matchup, and I've been so lucky to have Murray Lee and Bobby Brand and Jamie Winjack to support what I wanted to do and complement what they wanted to do in their operation.
Yeah, this is a beautiful golf course, beautiful facility. You mentioned Anna. You know, she was one of the half that nominated you. Kate Johnson was the other. You know, Kate just turning pro and am champion himself.
Yeah.
You know, Anna, I think 5, probably the best, you know, women we've seen in our province ever, maybe.
Yeah.
Nancy Harvey might have something to say about that. But, you know, Kate just made his pro debut. Anna's had a great career. She's giving back now. What does it mean to, you know, hear that they wanted you in?
It was special. It was. It made me smile and be proud, and to be a part of their success and go on to being touring professionals, and part of the path that I was on, and me partly supporting that and being able to contribute is exactly where I wanted to be in Saskatchewan, and helping elite golfers as well as beginner golfers, just helping people enjoy the sport. And it really meant a lot having them say, hey, you're part of this career that we are on, and acknowledging that was really special.
Yeah, I think you almost need to go in as a player / builder, you know, because there's no coach category.
Yeah,
The night
about that. that's a hot button issue. Why isn't there a coach category? There should be, and
maybe someday it'll be the Brad Birnie Award or something like that. That night coming up, and then Brian obviously gave you the call and told you were going in. You know, we're going to hear more about what that means on September 18th. But right now, kind of as you look forward to that night.
Yeah, it's a wonderful get-together and celebration. They've done this for years, and I'm going to be enjoying the heck out of it. There's a few people I'd love to introduce myself to who I've never met and have contributed to golf in Saskatchewan in different ways. And being a part of their celebration, and one of the many legends of Saskatchewan golf might be there, and to be a part of the Hall of Fame, and some of the people that I've looked up to for many years. As a junior golf, you say, okay, well, will I ever have some kind of career that compares to people like Jim Sissons, and at this time even Graham Dillette, some place where it says, yeah, you people have contributed to Saskatchewan golf. Being one of those people is off the charts. Proud and happy about it. It's a wonderful honor.
And what do you want the legacy of Brad Birnie to be?
Oh, just a good coach, a good person, a good model for junior golfers, for golfers in general, and upholding the standards, the high standards of golf, being a special sport and part of their lives. Just one of those people who we can look up to is fine.
I'm looking forward to September 18th to hear more. It was awesome to learn more about your career today. A magnificent one, and congratulations from Golf Saskatchewan.
Thank you, Clark. Appreciate that.